So then we move on to striking skills. When you think about striking, you think about maybe hitting a piñata or just karate, right? But anything that you're using, either your body or an implement is just an object that you're using to strike, is a striking skill. So anytime you're making contact with an object, forcing it in the opposite direction, that's striking. Okay, so any of these skills could be a striking skill. In your book, again, we're not going to cover every single skill that there is, just kind of the basics. So since batting may be one of the first things that comes to mind when you think about striking, we'll start with that. So one of the things you'll see from early to late development with using a bat is a switch from no step to a step with the homolateral. That means the same side. So whatever side you're throwing with, so if you throw with your right arm, you're stepping with your right foot. That's homolateral, same side. And then contralateral literally means opposite side. So if you were throwing with your right arm, you would step with your left leg. Okay, so switching from no step all the way to stepping with the opposite foot. And you switch from the sagittal plane forward, and frontal plane, now we have some sideways movement, and then from a static to a dynamic whole body skill. And these are the charts from your book, and see here in the early stages, it's really more like, what is that game from the arcade? We like hit a weasel and it pops up. Okay, that it looks really more like that. We're like trying to hit a weasel. Okay, that pops up instead of, or hammering the ball instead of the horizontal striking movement that we're used to. So early development looks like popping a weasel. Or late develop, now we're in the lateral movement, and you see there's a wind up, and we're turning towards the back, and then as the ball approaches, we turn forward and use our whole body to come around the front of the ball and follow through here. So boys are developing at 7, girls at 8.5. Okay, then we'll look at kicking. And kicking is hitting the ball with your foot. You'll see in early stages, the hands are kind of high guard, just like early walking. And that's for balance. And they look at the ball, they kick it, they may not go very far. There's not a lot of wind up or follow through in early kicking. Whereas here you see they're actually running up to the ball and being able to accurately still hit the ball. And then there's follow through that may even send them up into the air here. So again, boys developing at 7, girls 8.5. When I say developing, I mean reaching the final stage. And then bouncing, we're only going to have really 2 stages. One is slapping. Okay, so they're just using their elbow, just slapping with their wrist, very little movement. They're not fully extending their elbow. So most of the contact is coming from wrist movement. Whereas in the mature form, you'll see a complete extension of the arm. So you're pushing the ball to the floor and then receiving the ball on the way up. Okay, so absorbing the force here. And when we talk about reaching the mature form, keep in mind that we're talking about just techniques. So they may reach the mature forms. They're taking a step with their opposite foot. They're doing a follow through and a wind up, but they may not, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're accurate at that point. So that's kind of what gets worked on later on. We get, with more practice and more experience, we get more accurate, we get more efficient, we have more force to apply as we get muscle strength, those kinds of things. So kicking and punting. Kicking is a ball that's on the ground, and punting is kicking a ball that's in the air still. So dropping the ball towards you, right? So not kicking very far, doesn't look very coordinated or efficient. Whereas here, we're seeing greater contact, greater extension on the follow through that actually forces the person upward instead of forward. So then we got to go back to Knoll's model of constraints. How do help someone be successful when we're teaching this skill. We want to have the most success possible, and we'll talk about that with the youth sports chapter, is that you want to balance success and failure. You want it to be challenging so that they get better, but if it's too challenging and there's no success, then they're going to get frustrated and give up. We don't want that either. So some things to think about when you're designing practices for children that are developing these skills is the size and the color of the ball. And we get into a lazy habit of saying, well, it matters whether it's a small, medium, or large ball, but it's really how big the ball is proportionally to the hand size. Okay, so you want the ball to be proportionate to the child's hands. So being big or small could mean any range of sizes, really. So you want it to be proportional to the child's hands. That's what we want to think about. You also want to think about color. So a blue ball on a white background is the easiest to see. When we talk about sensory system, we'll talk about how the development of vision affects movement. And so having that high contrast really helps with their ability to catch the ball accurately. So blue or bright yellow gives you that contrast. You also want, if you're thinking about catching skill, then a ball that has a little bit like those gator skin balls, I think they're called, have a little bit of a give to them. That's easier to catch when you're first learning. A little bit softer ball. The speed of the throw, so throwing it a little bit softer, maybe a lob, gives them more time to get their hands there and accurately catch it, and then you can increase the speed to make it more difficult later. Also, this was something that seemed odd to me at first, but maybe that's because I didn't play softball. But catching with a glove is often easier than catching with the bare hand. So, and that may be because the glove is bigger than the hand, so that gives you more room for error. You can change the type of bat you're looking at. You can make the ball like a beach ball, right? It floats in the air, so that's going to help manipulate the speed as well as the softness of the ball. So using different implements to change the difficulty of the skill is something that you want to think about and plan for, so you're not caught off guard. Especially with young kids, you're going to have a wide range of skills, so you need to know how to make it easy enough for the kids that are inexperienced and challenging enough for the kids that have been playing for a while. And these are easy things that you can change while doing the same drills. Some other things you can think about is using verbal cues. It's been shown that if you have a good coach that's giving you the correct verbal cues, like if you tell a child to take a step when throwing or take a step when batting, they're more likely to do it, and they're going to reach that part of the skill development earlier if you're giving them those cues. So make sure you're doing that. So enhancement to how much knowledge they have of the correct technique is correlated with how well they perform that skill. So make sure you're giving them cues for the technique. Again, just relationship of the size and weight of the ball, the bat, the implement that you're using is helpful for balancing success and failure. Okay, so that's all of the object control skills we're going to talk about, and you'll get some practice with doing assessment of these skills and looking for the different phases with different ages of kids.